All right, welcome to Sync Part 2. This one should be a lot shorter. You want to see my puppy? I got my puppy here. Come here. Come here, you. Oh my gosh. He's too big. He's not a puppy. Oh, jeez. He's going to knock this whole thing down. There he is. Say hi. Say hi, little guy. You look like a teddy bear. Hmm? Ah, one more time. There you go. Say hi. Oh, he's waving. Look at that. Hi. All right. Get out of here. Ugh. All right. Enough of that. All right, for TV. TV's handled a lot differently than movies. Movies try to get all the rights they can that they know they're going to need, and they just pay for it and they be done with it. And they're just sure they have the rights. For TV, you really never know what the success of the TV show is going to be, what kind of life it's going to have, what kind of markets it's going to appeal to, what kind of uses you're going to do. And they are reluctant to just get all the rights they might possibly need at the time because they may not need them. And by the same token, they don't want to be held hostage by just getting the rights they know they need, and they need some rights later on, and they have to pay whatever the publisher might want for them. So what would be a contractual solution to that? Can you tell me? You only want to pay for the rights you know you're going to need, but you don't want to be held hostage for rights that you may need in the future that you didn't anticipate. The way you do that is you build in options for what you might need in the future. So typically what it'll be for the synchronization license will be for a specific period of time. It might be for 2 years or for 5 years to be able to use a song in that production. And then if you think the production is going to have a life beyond that, then you can exercise an option and pay a couple more $1,000s to have it be in perpetuity, that you have the right to use it in that production forever. You might limit the geographic area and might say this is for the United States because you know you're going to show it on NBC, and then you find it's going to be something that's going to be an international success. So if you want to start to show that production in other markets, you have to pay another 3,000, 5,000, whatever dollars in order to have rights internationally to use it in that production. And finally, you might limit it to certain media like broadcast or cable TV. And then if it turns out that you need something more, you need to put it into syndication somehow, you need to stream it, you need rights for the internet, there'll be little incremental option payments that you make for that. If you want to release it on DVD, Friends Season 8, there might be another payment that is due. So the fee is going to be based upon just what you need right away, and it's going to be subject to the same factors that I had for movies. And generally speaking, it's going to be somewhere between, I don't know, $8,000 to $20,000 more or less to put something in a major TV show, and it could be less if it's something somebody's just discovering, an indie band, as I said, or it could be more if it's a really prominent song that gets to be used in that production. And so that's going to be the basic upfront payment, and then it's going to have additional payments based upon additional uses if that's required. This is going to be different. The fee is going to maybe be different for shows that use a lot of music, kind of ironically or paradoxically, that the more important music is to a show, the less you might have to pay because there's so much music being used. Can you tell me a TV show that makes use of a lot of prominent music? One would be American Idol or The Voice or Glee. Glee. Those types of productions tend to pay less, even though they're using huge copyrights. Could be Motown, could be Beatles, could be Beyonce, could be anything. They will pay $3,000 or $4,000 per song because they use so much music that if they had to pay the going rate for music, they wouldn't be able to afford it. So normally, publishers will agree to this reduced rate, but they are going to require a clause. What's the name of that clause? Most favored nations clause. That says I'll agree to this $3,500, but if you pay anybody else any more, then I get the benefit of that additional amount. So it's going to be a small amount like that, and then it's going to have a series of incremental payments that are required if American Idol decides to stream this song, if American Idol, the show, if American Idol is going to show this in Russia, which they probably won't because it's American Idol. So there can be options built in based upon additional uses or needs that that TV production company has. All right, that's that. Commercials. Whoa. This is where the big money is. And I don't know if you are familiar with the attitude of publishers toward this. Just the attitude of publishers in general, honestly. Up until maybe 30 years ago, I'm going to say 30 to 40 years ago, publishers were very passive. They were not aggressive entities that were looking to exploit and make as much money as possible from stuff. They just weren't. I don't know why that was, but they just weren't. I think it mostly had to do with when they didn't have to work hard for sheet music anymore, and they didn't have to work hard to get people to record songs because the industry kind of revolved around artists that wrote their own songs, that they just got a little lazy and just invested in stuff and just sat back and made money. So that's one thing. Another thing was, especially in the era of rock and roll, there were a lot of writers that didn't want their songs associated with products. They considered that to be selling out in a couple of senses of the word. So they didn't like their stuff being licensed. So there wasn't a lot of major copyrights that were involved in commercials. And when people's relationship to music and to artists really intensified in the rock and roll era, and some of those rock and roll performers and their publishers and their record labels were more amenable, I say amenable, I don't know why, more amenable to licensing stuff, they became big, big, big money opportunities. But a publisher still has to think, even apart from, you know, I don't want my song associated with peanut butter. Even above and beyond that, you have to think about whether the advertisement is going to hurt the song in terms of people will start to associate that song as being a commercial jingle rather than being an actual song that is supposed to affect you on an emotional level. And the end result of that could be that nobody wants to touch that song again. Not just because you're with peanut butter. They don't have any objection to that. They just know this song is associated with peanut butter now. And 10 years later, when people are seeing this ad for peanut butter, and the song hasn't been a hit for 10 years, there's going to be a generation of people that don't even know this was a song. They're going to think it was a peanut butter jingle. And so nobody's going to record it again and do a cover version later on. And nobody's going to want to put it into a motion picture or TV show for the emotional impact of the song, because unless they want to evoke peanut butter. So it could hurt the legitimacy and the future exploitation of a song to do something like that. On the other hand, it could help the song. That is, a lot of songs have used their association with an ad to help to promote the song. That is, it's easier than trying to work radio to make people aware of this new song. And so take a listen to how that operates. Sometimes songs become popular or more popular by virtue of the fact that it was used in an advertisement. And in addition to that, there is big, big, big money in this. More than you could ever make in mechanical royalties or in sync licenses. So think about that. The rights that are going to be required is you're going to get the right to put it into that commercial and to have it associated with that product, and it's going to spell out how the duration of the ad campaign, which is usually like a year. It's probably going to have options so that if they want to continue to use it, they pay a prescribed amount rather than have to renegotiate at a certain point. There may be a provision for them to be able to change the lyrics. Nacho, nacho, man. I want Pringles. So sometimes you pay a little more for that. There is going to be some measure of exclusivity with this. Probably the publisher can't license the song out for a competing product. That would be fair. So if it's Pringles, they would say you can't do it for any other chips. Maybe even broaden that category to any kind of snack foods. but they're probably not, unless they paid big, big money, not going to be able to say you can't license this out for any advertisements at all. Hey, dog, come and lay down. It's going to prescribe the territory. That is it going to be regional, national, international, and what sort of media can be used: TV, radio, whatever, streaming on the internet, etc. And so the amount of money that you can make, just regular old copyright and a regular old year ad, can be well into the six figures. 250,000 to 500,000 would be a range where you're going to find most of them. But whoa, the price goes way, way up depending upon the stature of the song. So I don't know if I told you some of this, but Microsoft was launching one of their Windows, I don't know, Windows 8, and they wanted to use End of the World by REM, and they offered them $10 million. And REM turned them down. And they used Start Me Up instead by the Rolling Stones, because the Rolling Stones will do anything for money. And as I think I told you also, way back in the beginning of the semester, I think the most valuable copyright, although I have no idea, I've never seen anything on it, is Led Zeppelin. One of their songs, Rock and Roll maybe, was used, don't bite me, was used in a Cadillac commercial. And I'm going to say that has to be way in excess of 10 million. I'm going to say 15 or 20 million dollars for the benefit of using such an iconic song, an iconic group associated with an iconic car. So that kind of money, like that. I think there have been others that have been well into the, how many figures is that? 8 figures. The dog is under my legs. Oh boy. There have been several songs that have fallen into that category. So this is big money. And one of the ways that Led Zeppelin, for instance, is able to command that kind of money is that they don't do it very much. In fact, they didn't license anything for many, many years. The first thing they licensed a movie for was Almost Famous. I forgot to tell you about some of the directors that make an incredible use of music within their productions, because it wasn't always the case that people used existing music in movies. One of the first to do it was Mike Nichols, who did it with The Graduate, which is one of my favorite movies, and I have a personal history with that someday you can ask me about, and I'll tell you. Mike Nichols, who also years later did a movie called something with Jude Law, and jeez, this quarantine is getting to me. Closer is the name of the movie, with Jude Law and Clive Owen and Julia Roberts and Natalie Portman, and it's one of the most intense movies that you could ever see in your whole entire life. Now he's chewing the cord. Get out of here! And he used as the song to introduce the movie during the opening credits, and the closing credits was Damien Rice, Blower's Daughter, and that turned me on to Damien Rice, and I've been the biggest Damien Rice fan in the world since his use of that music. So he's really been one of the trailblazers in the use of music. Another person you should take note of, I'm getting sidetracked. I love talking about music and movies because it's two of my favorite things, music and movies, is Cameron Crowe. Cameron Crowe, who loves music so much, he married the guitar player from Heart. They're getting divorced now, I'm sorry. But so his movies, one of his movies is, he wrote Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I'm going to